For more 80s new wave and synth pop stories, please hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Back in the late 70s, Devo were described as completely freaked out, one of the strangest and most original new wave bands of the era. They were often written about as a bunch of nerds who called themselves spuds, the kind of kids who did their homework every single day except on the one day the teacher decided to check it. That really summed them up. Awkward, clever, and deliberately weird. Their stiff robotic movements, their odd sci-fi costumes, and their heavy use of keyboards made them look and sound like machines in human form. But they were never just fooling around. Behind the strangeness, there was a sharp political idea. The name Devo came from their belief in de-evolution, the idea that society was not improving at all but sliding backwards into decline. They felt the modern world was becoming plastic, mechanical and controlled, and they wanted to shine a light on that. The story began in Akron, Ohio, USA. Mark Mothersbaugh and Gerald Casale met as art students at Kent State University during a dark moment in American history. They were there when the National Guard opened fire on students, killing 4 people. Casale later said it was the most Devo day of his life. Out of that tension and chaos came their creative partnership. Casale picked up the bass, Mothersbaugh sang and played keyboards, and soon they brought in their brothers Bob Casale and Bob Mothersbaugh on guitar, along with Alan Myers on drums. That was the first lineup of Devo. They started off playing shows around Ohio before branching out to New York and Los Angeles, where they really began to get noticed. From the very beginning, their live shows set them apart. They always dressed the same, sometimes in flight suits, sometimes in shiny plastic wigs, and of course those famous red hats that looked like upside-down flower pots. On stage they projected strange films, threw in choreographed routines, and flung themselves around in bursts of jerky robotic energy. It was part rock concert, part performance art, and often completely baffling to anyone expecting a normal gig. But that was the point. You were never meant to just watch Devo. You were meant to experience them. Soon they were pulling in huge crowds, appearing on Saturday Night Live, and even gaining the attention of big names in the music world. Their first single, Jocko Homo, came out on their own label and became a cult hit in the underground scene. The song directly played with their ideas about evolution and de-evolution, asking the now famous question, are we not men? It was bizarre, catchy, and impossible to ignore. That song led them to a deal with a major record label, with their debut album produced by Brian Eno. What had seemed like a joke to some people now looked groundbreaking. Suddenly, Devo were serious contenders. From the start, people argued about them. Some thought they were painting a dark picture of modern life, a world brainwashed and controlled. Others said they were just mocking everything, including themselves. Either way, Devo broke through. Their robotic cover of the Rolling Stones' Satisfaction became a hit. Their third album, Freedom of Choice, went gold and gave them their biggest song, Whip It. They even scored another success with their version of Working in a Coal Mine, which appeared on the soundtrack of the animated film Heavy Metal. What made them connect with fans was that they were the ultimate band for outsiders. They did not speak to the shiny pop world or the spandex-clad rock stars. They spoke to the kids who felt left out, the ones who hated the mainstream. Back home in Ohio, they were booed off stage and dismissed as nerds, but they leaned into it. They never pretended to be cool. They dressed like extras from a low-budget 50s sci-fi film and danced around the stage in strange spasms. And because of that, their fans adored them even more. By the mid-80s, though, the magic was fading. Their unique style started to feel dated, and even they seemed aware of it. Some said their later records sounded tired and sad, as though the band themselves knew their moment was slipping away. A few people still saw them as disillusioned idealists who wanted to use their music to make people think. Others were much harsher, accusing them of losing their spark or just repeating themselves. The irony was that Devo really had been pioneers of electronic music. Back in the early 70s, Mark Mothersbaugh would scratch and loop records just to create new rhythms. They used windscreen wipers and washing machines as instruments, built their own gear, and worked their way through the entire history of sequencers. He once said that if they had been rich kids, maybe they would have made films or theatre instead. But growing up in a factory town, music was the art form they could afford. While many musicians treated synthesizers like pianos, Devo treated them as raw machines, something to hit, bend, and twist into new sounds. For all their weirdness, they did not like being misunderstood. When critics sneered and called them clowns or Nazis, Gerald Casale lashed back with sarcasm, saying maybe it was true, maybe they really were idiots. But behind that was real frustration. They cared deeply about their work. Their goal was to make people think differently, to encourage decisions based on information rather than paranoia or fear. They believed people rejected them, not because they were bad, but because they were different, and difference is always threatening. By the early 90s, the band had gone quiet, with most of their music just being reissued. During that time, Casale focused on directing music videos, while Mothersbaugh explored fine art, created silk screen prints, wrote a book, and moved into television, writing music for shows like Pee-wee's Playhouse and Liquid Television. In 2025, Devo remain active and are performing on the Cosmic De-Evolution Tour, which they are co-headlining with the B-52s in a huge celebration of new wave music, with Leni Lovitch joining as a special guest. The tour kicked off on September 24th at Budweiser Stage in Toronto, followed by a show on September 25th at Pine Knob Music Theatre in Clarkston, Michigan, and continued with a performance on October 2nd at the Xfinity Center in Mansfield, Massachusetts. Fans are hearing classics like Whip It and Girl You Want, alongside rare tracks pulled from their archives. The tour continues with upcoming performances at the PNC Bank Arts Center in Holmdel, New Jersey, and other North American venues, running through November. The tour also coincides with the release of a new documentary on Netflix, which explores the band's origins, their anti-authoritarian message, and their journey through decades of music and pop culture. Looking back, Devo were never just another band. They were artists, pranksters, philosophers, and misfits all rolled into one. They predicted a world that felt more mechanical and less human, and whether you laughed with them or scratched your head in confusion, they left their mark. For the kids who felt out of place, Devo gave permission to be strange, to challenge the ordinary, and to find power in being different. They might not have stayed at the top of the charts, but their legacy still runs through music, fashion, and pop culture. Devo showed us that sometimes the weirdest ideas are the ones that make the most sense, and even now, decades later, people are still asking that unforgettable question. Are we not men? We are Devo. Enjoyed this? Please subscribe and turn on notifications, then check out these videos.